meanwhile the people would join.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, hi Shweta, welcome to FIFA Talks and
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me, Harshita.
yeah, and let's start with a brief introduction of yours, and then we will be taking up questions from my side and the audience side.
Yes, yes, definitely. So, hi everyone. I am Sweta Kamble and I am a freelance SaaS copywriter, content writer, and a content strategist. So, I help, as my title goes, I help SaaS companies and B2B companies in getting them their potential subscribers and helping the visitors to transform into paying customers. So I also help a lot of aspiring freelancers and companies in ideas and helping them get their clients. But I haven't really monetized this, but I'll be doing it very soon. And as of now, I've just started casually. I've just started this uh, thing. Like it's been around a year that I have properly started freelancing and being quite active on social media, especially LinkedIn. And I'm sure a lot of you know me on LinkedIn. So, yeah, so that's about me. I am into this. I have a total work experience of 7 years into the B2C plus the B2B space. So I transitioned from B2C to the B2B space in a very subtle way, and I didn't even realize how that happened. But then I will be speaking about this later on in the session. But yeah, to speak about B2C, my experience with B2C is like totally different compared to B2B. And if some of you, I'm not sure how many of you know the difference between B2C and B2B. Like B2C is business to customers, where you sell to a common man. You sell to your customers, to the public. And B2B is like you create a product and you sell to a business, and the purchase techniques and the purchase decisions are totally different in these two sectors. So I've seen all of that, and the reason why we are in this session today, like how to get clients internationally in the cold to win the cold emailing game. This is because I have leveraged all of my 7 years of experience, work experience of content writing and marketing into this cold emailing. The techniques that I use for this is because it has really helped me, and I'm not sure like how many of you really believe in the outbound game, but yes, the outbound reach has helped me quite a lot compared to the inbound. Not that I don't get inbound leads, I still get inbound leads till date, but there are some differences when it comes to the budget part of it. So I'll be discussing all of these things with you guys. Yes, Harshita, yeah, we can start now.
Sure. Thank you so much for making us aware more about you. And let's start with as the topic suggests, how to win clients internationally with the cold emailing game. So,
Sure.
at start, I would like to ask that how long you have been cold emailing and how it has helped you.
Yes, yes, definitely. So, as I told you, like I have had a total, work experience of 7 years, but that was as a full time employee. And while I was a full time employee, I used to, cold email people internationally and domestically. And I did get response mostly on the domestic area of it. So, it has been, I wouldn't say 7 years. All in all, I would say it's been 3 years on an average that I have been cold emailing. And if I have to count the number of emails, I didn't really try to count, but it could be like around 200 plus emails that I have sent. Okay, now you would ask me, like, you speak about, you want to talk about cold emailing and the great areas about cold emailing, but why did I just send 200 emails? I'm just giving a rough idea as to how many emails I've sent and why I was able to succeed just sending 200 emails in a matter of 3 years. It's because there is success here. Okay. And that is the reason I would like to take this session very strategically, where you build a uh, base for your own niche. For example, you build a base for going ahead in the cold emailing game. Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, I have been around 3 years into the cold emailing thing, and I've been helping international clients. Not that they have always been with me, but if they would like to, stick around with me, then it could be. I always charge a retainer, so yeah. So we'll talk about that later. But yes, it's been like around 3 years, and I have sent across 200, around 200 emails in all.
Okay, great. And the next question is, what are the best aspects of outbound reach, and how does this differ from inbound lead generation?
Sure. So, as I told you guys, that I've been very active on LinkedIn from the past 1 year, and I did get inbound leads. As you, I hope all of you guys know what an inbound lead is. Like, it's like you don't have to reach out to clients; they will reach out to you when they see, when you make yourself known to them, right? So that is when uh, your potential prospects will get to know that this person exists. Like Harshita exists, and she's a podcaster because she's like, we know about her now. Okay, we know her potential, and they will definitely reach out to you. But the difference between outbound and inbound is like, inbound game is like, you do get uh, contacted by prospects, and you feel totally great, like, oh my god, there are 10 people contacting me in a day. Okay, at least I get contacted by 3 to 4 people each day. So but the problem here is that you're not the only one they're contacting. They're contacting 10 other freelancers. Okay. So that differs. And that is a differentiating factor between inbound and outbound. In outbound, what happens is you select the company, you are the chooser, you select the company you want to work for, and you reach out to them. And the best part here is that these are the companies which you don't have to you don't have to compete with other freelancers, because maybe there are so many companies which are still untapped, they are not even contacted, no one knows about them, but they need freelancers. And a lot of companies don't even are not even aware that there is a problem in their strategy, there is a problem in their website, or they're not trying to update their blogs, or they are not doing the right way, doing it going the right way. So you have to make them aware, and for that you need to have the industry knowledge, definitely. And yeah, and speaking of the industry knowledge, that will be I'll cover it up next. But you have to definitely reach out to your clients. That is the difference between inbound and outbound. In inbound, yes. One more difference is that when people contact you, when your clients contact you, you spend time in discussing the budget. You give them a package deal. Okay. So what happens is uh, you give out your best expertise and your package, but they would always go for something that fits within their budget. Okay. And yes, as I told, that they contact 10 other people, 10 other freelancers, more than 10. I mean, I'm not being specific here, but they contact a lot of people. They check out their quality. Okay, you are still competing with so many freelancers out there. And it's not just one client, but if you're contacted by 4 5 clients, and you are spending hell lot of time in actually convincing them, writing test pieces, even if they are paid. Okay, most of them don't even bother to pay you for the test pieces, but even if they are paid, so your time, you spend a lot of time, and there is a very less possibility that you will be chosen unless you give a very uh, cost effective rate for your charge for your services. And like, unless you are a fresher, for example, if you are a fresher, you will definitely be selected. uh, okay. Sorry, the I just read the comment by I think Shobik. So yeah, so this is a very harsh reality, definitely. And so this is the difference. And when it comes to the outbound game, there is a way to select companies too. You'll there are people, like, I'm one of them who did this mistake. Like, I when I was new to this, I would just go to AngelList, or and there are many websites, and Google search is the best place to check out companies. AngelList, I would just You cannot, first of all, you cannot bulk email anyone. You cannot just send a random email. Okay, you have to check the company. I'm sure a lot of you must be knowing this. You need to check the company and where they are lagging, what are the loopholes, and all of those things. But uh, when you are selecting companies, be very specific. You cannot select companies which are known to people. Like a lot of people know them, and maybe everyone is targeting the same company, even those who are doing the trying to reach out to them. So I'm talking about the international clients here. So there are many companies, and especially like when I speak about my own niche, that is SaaS. SaaS is a booming industry, and it has been in the industry. It has been in the market since 10 years, but post COVID, SaaS has become like the most talked about industry, and almost about everyone wants to get into the SaaS niche. Okay, so the thing is that it's very easy to get into something, but it's difficult. It's not difficult, but it's a bit challenging to transform yourself into a subject matter expert. And it's not difficult at all, actually. It's a bit challenging. So yeah, speaking of the outbound and the inbound differentiating factors, i would say uh, I would say, like, based on whatever I mentioned now, I think you have less competition in outbound, and there is a strategic way to go about it. So that is the reason I always go for outbound reach. And many a times, like, you must have noticed, I mean, I don't know how many of you have noticed that I just go off LinkedIn for a few days, and uh, you know what happens if you go off LinkedIn, you just lose your reach. But I'm okay with that, because I'm very if you're busy in minting money, then nothing like it. We all do this for money, right? So yes, that is the reason I'm like busy, either busy sending emails, I'm busy doing things like that. So yeah, international clients are the way to go, because inbound leads, if you are, again, if you are an inbound receiver, then what would happen is that you would get Indian clients. I mean, being in India, I get Indian clients also. Let me point out something about this. I tried changing my location on LinkedIn, and I somehow, I had a troubled conscience, because I was contacted by a lot of people, but they were not my prospect clients, and they were not even my prospects. In fact, they were from US. And I just somehow felt like there comes a part of integrity where people are not fools. They definitely understand that you are from another country, and why would you even do that? You can be very upfront and tell them that I want to work with overseas clients. But again, it really doesn't look good, and it there's a question of integrity that props up. And the people in US, they literally adore honesty and integrity. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I have, before I got into writing, like this was like way back, a lot of years back. Like, I worked for a BPO, and I used to speak to US clients, and they would they just literally pick up like where you are lying, what are you doing, what are your intentions. Like, they get to know, and they know what it is. They want you to be truthful. And I decided to change my location. Okay, that is exactly after what happened recently. I changed my location back to India, and it does not hurt. They just want to know if this person is legit. They will definitely go to your LinkedIn and check if this person is legit. If this person, that speaks a lot about your integrity. So yeah.
Right. So, in your previous answer, you talked about the subject matter expert, right? So, it means like particularly focusing on a particular niche, right? So, how does that
Right.
niche mindset would change our quality of work if we specify a
Okay.
niche and then keep working
Right.
upon on that?
Right. As I mentioned, that I started my writing journey from the B2C space. What happened was, if you work for B2C brands, okay, so the target audience differs, because the target audience are people like us, who don't have a business as such. So people who are the consumers, and they relate to emotions, they relate to experiences of a product or a service, and that is the way the purchasing decision is made, and there are techniques to sell these kind of consumers. So the writing, when it comes to writing and marketing, that thing differs, and your writing differs, and your creativity level differs, and the quality of your work also. So what happens when you transition from B2C to B2B? Okay, because you spoke about the niche mindset. The reason why I stress upon the niche is because if you are a generalist, so let me finish the first part that I was mentioning, that there is this transition that happened from B2C to B2B. And what happened was, I didn't have a specific niche. I was a generalist. Not that I would not get clients, but it was little bit difficult to get clients. Okay, even though I would get, the open rates were amazing, but it was difficult to convert them. Okay, that was because I was a generalist. I was just a content writer. I wasn't a SaaS content writer or a B2B content writer as such. And what happened was, uh, I realized that you need to come across as a specialist, a subject matter expert. Why I say this is because, so for example, if you're getting a stomach ache, and if you go to a dentist, he's not going to cure your stomach ache. You have to go to a specialist. Similarly, even if you are a content writer, okay, there are many content writers who are going to contact your prospect clients in the outbound game also. So you need to be a specialist. You need to. So this is a very challenging game. If done right, you will get there. Even if you get one or two clients who are like really high paying, or even if they have normal rates, but you are still getting paid really well. So nothing like it. So you need to come across as a subject matter expert there. So why I say this is because in cold emails, what happens is when you uh, speak about content writing. So I know, like, we still haven't hit the part where we are talking about the cold emailing process. But here's a bit of something that I would like to mention about it. The body of your cold email. Okay, whatever you mention in your cold email regarding the business that you are targeting, the company that you are targeting, you cannot mention about the fact that you have written product descriptions. Product, you can write great product descriptions, or you can write whatever regarding you cannot write about yourself. You have to write about the company. That is A. B, you have to write about what that industry is about. You have to show them that you have the knowledge of the industry. For example, SaaS. If I would just write that I am a writer, and I can help your company in getting your subscribers with high performing, high converting copy or landing page or something like that, that is not going to help, because they want to understand your knowledge on what SaaS is, how the SaaS industry functions. For example, I had to research quite a lot on this, because like in the initial time I had to research, and I had my personal experiences with SaaS products for a very long time in my full-time job. That's the reason I got to know a lot about SaaS. So, for example, what is a churn rate? Okay, you don't have to write like big hyphen or jargons or something, but you have to make them aware in your sentences that you know your thing, you know about this industry and how this functions. Like, I can help your company get your subscribers, and reduce the churn rate. Like, you have to speak the language, because until and unless you don't speak the language, they are not going to realize that you know about the industry. Okay, so this is the thing, that this is the most important thing about the niche. You have to come across as a subject matter expert to convert the client over a cold email. Okay, and Yeah, I mean, I think that is the most important thing, because a generalist is going to talk about, like, if you just write about each and everything, that is not going to help. So why this is the mindset that you need to nurture, about a niche mindset, as I call it. It's because uh, when I transitioned from B2C to B2B, okay, and then I again got a client who wanted a B2C write up, and I wasn't able to write for B2C, because this is because your mindset becomes, you start thinking in the B2B way, because B2B differs quite a lot. It uh, talks more about, you know, how it talks more on the practical side of purchase decisions that people make, and B2C is about emotions and creativity and a lot of it. And B2B has very less scope of creativity in their write-ups also, like case studies, white paper, and all of those things. So that is exactly the reason why we have to nurture the niche mindset in our minds. Even when I'm very particular in commenting on LinkedIn, posts, because I just try to find posts which are related to my niche, not because I want clients or something from out of that, but because, when I do that, I'm writing, and I'm writing in that language, in the B2B language. Okay. So you need to make it your habit. If you don't make it your habit, you are going to get totally stuck up between B2B and B2C, and this will definitely affect the quality. So finally, the B2C client that I wrote for, uh, probably he told me that I don't see the wow factor and things like that. Okay. So I really don't know what was it, but I got to know that now I am settled in B2B and I should stick to one thing. And that is when that's the reason why I feel like you have to be, if you are focusing on one niche, stick to that. If you are focusing on B2B and maybe a SaaS niche or anything else, maybe e-commerce, stick to that. Some people, they write for e-commerce and SaaS, but again, it's B2B. So yeah, the language is going to be the same. The storytelling is different in B2B, like it's not at all like B2C. So it differs, and you have to nurture that mindset. That is when it shows up in the quality of your work. Yeah.
Right. And we have many questions in the chat box, so can we
Yes.
take up some of them?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, sure.
Okay. The first question is how long you are working in the SaaS industry, and what is your experience in this domain?
Yes, in the SaaS industry, I've been working since 1.5 year now. No, I mean to say 2 years, 2 or 3 years, because when I was working as a as a full time employee, we had a SaaS product as well, which, and the client was NBC Universal. So I have worked for them for the SaaS product for that full time, when I was a full time employee. So this was a software industry, so we used to make a lot of apps. We used to develop apps. Not me, I was a writer. So yeah, I've worked for them, and then I worked for them for around 2 years, and then I moved on to the SaaS freelance space, where I became a writer, SaaS writer. And my experience in this domain, well, so let me tell you, when since the time I've started working in as a, like, for companies as a full time employee, I have hands on experience on the most important SaaS products that businesses or companies usually use, like project management tools, project management software, or collaboration and communication tools like Slack or Zoho, Asana. So I've used them for a long time, and I know the challenges faced by the users, as a user and as an employee, as a person who's trying to probably delegate tasks to someone through that software, for example. And in today's time, like, we are exposed to a lot of SaaS products, but they are like on a milder note. They are like no code SaaS products. I worked on products which are, a bit higher, and I understand the nuances that go around in the functioning of that product. Okay, so my experience in this domain, this is what has helped me in writing for SaaS, for the SaaS industry. And the experience was totally different from B2C, definitely, because as a freelancer also it's different, because people have various requirements. Some of them require case studies, some of them require blogs. The most easiest ones are blogs. uh, some of them are you know uh, you know white paper. So some, it all depends upon the requirement and the company you're working for. Most of the time you will come across clients who would want you, who would just tell you that, okay, I want a blog, can you write a blog? Okay. Many of them need case studies. The reason is because case studies fall in the bottom of the funnel, of a sales funnel, where the SaaS marketing strategy starts from bottom of a funnel. As in, they won't waste time in the awareness stage. To make your target audience aware, they will directly start with case studies, testimonials, white paper, all of these things, so that the businesses they are targeting will get to know how effective this product is. Okay, instead of wasting time in the other parts of other areas. Okay, so everything, it all matters. Like, it all depends on in what stage of the sales funnel the company is in, and according to that, you can choose. There is a sub niche over there also. Some SaaS writers, they only prefer writing blogs. Some of them, they write case studies. Like, I write case studies. There are some who write white paper. There is a guy called the White Paper Guy. It's his website is the White Paper Guy, and he's specialized only in white paper. He'll write white paper for each and every, like, not only B2B but B2C, but he just writes white paper. So there are these kind of people, and you can choose what you want. So my experience has been better than B2C, because I feel I'm a B2B kind of a girl. I'm not a B2C person. I'm only B2C when I watch reels on Instagram. That's it.
Right. Okay. One more question from the SaaS industry. What is the scope of being a SaaS content writer or copywriter, domestically as well as internationally?
What is the scope? I mean, scope is immense, because this is the only industry that has thrived like anything post COVID, even during COVID, and it has gained uh, you know gained such popularity, because popularity, as in, there is a scope, because so let's come to the domestic part of it, like nationally. The kind of clients or the companies I have worked for 2 3 clients domestically, SaaS companies, and they try to catch up to the international standards, as per my observation. Okay, so you have to be one step ahead in thinking. Okay, because they would want answers from you. Okay, so scope in terms of money, immense scope. I mean, you can charge really well. And you can charge well when you have some experience, some portfolio to show. You can take one step at a time. You don't have to learn everything like case study, blogs, case studies, white paper. You don't have to learn everything. Just do one thing. Start one thing at a time. Go slow, and start getting experience in each and every niche, the sub niche of that particular niche. Okay, so that is how you get exposure to different kind of clients and different kind of companies. Okay, for example, I know what SaaS is. I know how the SaaS industry functions, but I won't know if health. If there's an ed tech. Okay, ed techs are also SaaS companies, and they would want uh, they would want some write up from me. So I don't need to know everything about an edtech, because that information will be provided to me by the company or the client. But I would need to know how a SaaS business functions. So I need to give them solutions to that, as to how I can help them understand how they work, how they function, and blend it with your experience, your knowledge of SaaS, of the SaaS industry. Blend it. Try to come up with a strategy. If you want, you can research, and you can strategize only when you research and implement it in your own in your own work. As in, I have a website. Okay, so I do a lot of these things for my own uh, personal branding, not personal branding, but my own website, like pillar pages. You can develop pillar pages, only then you can suggest a SaaS company. If you come up with lead magnets on your website, you can suggest the same for your for the SaaS industry, but then they have a different standard for that as well. But you need to implement things to suggest things to the SaaS industry, to the SaaS client. Okay, so internationally, of course, it has a lot of scope. What has happened? There was a time when I started feeling like, I had this preconceived notion that I started feeling like, okay, maybe what if my understanding about the SaaS industry is different from my prospects? Okay, because definitely they are the first world countries and they would know more about me. But I would really suggest you guys, please don't have any kind of preconceived notions, because a writer is a writer. Across this entire 1 year, what I realized is we try to underestimate ourselves quite a lot. I also some of my blogs are ranking on the first page of Google, third or fourth page. But then sorry, not third or fourth page of Google. So but not the others who are claiming to be writers internationally. I mean, the American writers that I know personally, they haven't been able to do that. Okay, so you shouldn't underestimate your potential based on your nationality or your culture. Definitely there is a trust factor, which there will Harshida, I guess, I hope we will be speaking about this, like the biggest challenge about the cold emailing aspects and with international clients.
Right. We have a question regarding that.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll get to that point later. So that's what, internationally there is a lot of scope. First, I would suggest, if you're new to this industry, especially since you asked about the SaaS industry, I would say take some. Since it's a bit different, bit difficult to reach out to international clients, take some uh, experience domestically with Indian clients, Indian SaaS industries. See how they work and all, because directly putting yourself into that pressure of handling international clients, it can be very challenging. So take one step at a time. You can start with some Indian client. The next client should be your US client, and you should, uh, I would say, you should know about the industry. Not that you need to know like everything, at least the main things, like how this works, like customer success. How important is customer success? How important is the churn? How important is, the first resolution contact? Those kind of things. So you need to know these things. That is when you can influence your international clientele. And yes, I mean, for retaining, okay, how is the SaaS industry internationally retaining clients? Harshita, was this a question, or so you asked a domestic and international?
I guess we have discussed about this. The most
Okay,
commonly asked question here was about the cold emailing template,
right,
or
right,
like perfect
exactly.
framework to actually build a cold email and then keep on making changes according to the prospect. So how's that
Right,
goes?
sure, sure. So what happens in the cold emailing is, the number one thing is, yeah, I know a lot of you would know this already, that you need a hook, you need a story, and then you need a great CTA and things like that. Okay, I know that, but I would say, yeah, do that in your subject line. Should be something which is, it shouldn't include, there are some keywords which you should not include to uh, to lose that client, because maybe your mail would not be read, would not be opened also. So there are a few keywords, not keywords, but there are a few words which are a complete no, because Google understand, not Google, but I guess Gmail, you know picks that up, and then it puts them in the promotions space, promotion section, promotion section of the Gmail. So that is how you lose a client, and so you need to have specific kind of words. Or you can Google that part, and you need to you know so I think all of you know what the components that you need. Okay, let me come to that point, because this is about cold emailing, and if I'm not talking about cold emailing, that's going to be really bad. So let me come to that. So I would say that the first thing is relevancy. As I told, you need to be relevant to your industry niche. Okay, when you start greeting, you have to greet as if you are not sounding like a bot. You are a person. You shouldn't sound like a bot. You should never send bulk emails to people. They instantly catch you off guard. So you shouldn't send that. And coming to after the subject line, so there are a few templates. I don't have a templates actually, but there are a few templates online which you can find. But I would say keep your cold email very specific according to your research about that particular company. Okay, one of the most important and very interesting things I would like to tell you guys is flattery. When you include flattery, as in you compliment, you give genuine compliments, that is the way to warm up your cold lines. Okay, you have to include that, and I'll come to that. Let me start with the first thing. The person you are emailing is very important. Okay, I learned this in my full-time job because I was a team leader. I mean, I was a content team lead for like handling 10 writers under me, and I know the hierarchy that goes around in the content and the industry, like in a company, how the protocol goes around. So you have to follow a protocol when, especially when you are contacting international clients, and it totally depends on totally depends on whom you're contacting. So now suppose we are not specifically talking about B2B or B2C, we are talking about both. Okay, so the first thing you should know whom you are contacting, their job position. Okay, so a lot of large corporations and companies have this complex hierarchy with multiple roles, and what happens is the founder won't have time to oversee everything that goes into the system. So this is exactly why they have protocols, and we need to contact those particular people who are into content. So the content marketing manager, or maybe the marketing manager, is the right person to contact. This is for B2B, and for B2C, it could be the entrepreneur himself or the founder himself. No, so you have to see whom are you contacting. It could be a solopreneur, you can directly contact the solopreneur. Okay, and this is in case of service-based businesses. And how long have they been working in that position? Now, the reason why you need to know this is because you will get a fair idea of how well they have been associated with that particular brand or product. You can speak about their establishments, about their the brands or the products accomplishment, and so from the name to the timing of the emails. Okay, the time, what time are you emailing them? There are specific days and weeks of the day. For example, you cannot email uh, companies on Saturday or a Friday evening, because they're already excited about the weekend, and they don't take weekends like us. They take it very seriously. So you have to give them their space. And there's something called follow up emails, which I'll come to. And I've already mentioned about the body of the email. Okay, as I told you guys that you have to come across as a subject matter expert. Blend your writing. If you are a writer, blend your uh, what how you can help their brand, and come one step ahead of uh, you know get yourself out of that writing, just the writing zone, and talk about the industry niche, and the functioning of it, and how you can blend your talent with helping them achieve their goals. Okay, you will have to do a lot of research for that, to check where they are lagging, and maybe they haven't updated their blogs. So how are you going to help them? Okay, and talk about uh, the your knowledge about it. So it's not only going to be about you, it's going to be about them, their pain points, and where how you can help them, give them some ideas, and maybe blog titles as to how, what kind of blogs can help them achieve their goal. And you're not losing anything because you're not going to write on those blogs as yet. You are just suggesting the topic. Okay, so if they like it, they will definitely go for you. Okay, and when you're talking about accomplishments, okay, there are some ways you can use flattery, or there are some ways you can genuinely compliment the client, because this is very important in breaking the ice and in getting them to feel good about themselves. This is very important in any relationship, first of all, and it's very important even in uh, professional relationships. So talk about the recent news or accomplishments about the person or the service based businesses, in case you're targeting service based businesses or a product based business like a SaaS industry or any kind of B2B. And talk about, you can check their website and check their press release. That is the best way to, they'll get to know that you have literally researched about their company, and their media pages on their website. Because how great they are, you will get to know how much, uh, you know how much they are lagging in something, or how much of improvement they need in their branding. So that is one thing. And if there are any new projects their company is working on, or has released, or they are just about to release and it's in the news, you can definitely talk about it, and you have a great scope of, uh, you have a great scope to actually grab that client. Because you, if you are playing the outbound game, and you will definitely be able to be the center of attention for that client, because they will get a person who is ready to work for them, and who will do well, and they would definitely need someone like that. So nothing like it. This is a very, very important point, I would say. Just check if there is any company who is coming up with a new feature or a new project that they're working in, and they're going to start, and then you can, that is the right time to actually target the client. And so this is like nothing like it if the genuine compliment that you're giving is directly related to your offer. You have to offer. So for example, if you are a case study writer, not that you are just a case study writer, but maybe you are a blog writer also. So a case study writer, so if the company is at a stage where it needs case studies and they're coming up with a product, and they would definitely need case studies, because if that particular, not product but a feature, okay, a SaaS feature. For example, I'm a SaaS writer, and if the company is a SaaS company, they are coming up with a new feature which is going to be released. Okay, so what happens is they will need someone to do case studies, because the case study is going to be indirectly related to their, to the other features. And they will definitely need a lot of writing pieces, and that is again another place where you can target the client. And yeah, so the more specific your compliment is, the more likely you'll get 10x better chances of response from the client. So, and also like when you write an email, so there are templates, like for example, how, hello, I hope I'm audible. I'm just going on talking.
Yeah, you are perfectly audible.
Okay,
I
okay,
personally
okay,
am
I have.
noting down the things that you are just
Oh,
speaking.
okay, 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 sure, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I was like, so I was saying that there are some do's and don'ts in a cold emailing. Okay, the email must be very simple. When you start, you definitely have to have a subject line where you need to mention the your offer. You need to mention about the company, that you're, this is for this company, the name of the company in the subject line. And when you greet, okay, please refrain from writing dear or uh, Mr. I mean dear, or any kind of casual greeting. Okay, so it should be formal. uh, it should be. And then when you start, with this. You have to talk about something like you have to ask them, I hope you're doing well and things like that. And I just came across your uh, product. I just came across your website, and it's really great. I mean, you have to first compliment. And as I mentioned, the pointers that you need to compliment them, on what basis you have to compliment, you have to mention. It shouldn't be all the pointers that I mentioned, but any one that is very specific and that goes well with their company, or whatever they lag in, whatever their loopholes are, you have to mention that. And the accomplishments that they have hit. So that, and then you have to talk about, so it's the first, let me just start that again. First you greet, and then you ask them how they are, and then you speak about the fact that you came across their website and it really looks great, and whatever you like about them, flatter them. And then the next point is talk about some kind of feedback that you would like to give them. Okay, something that they need to change in a very subtle manner. And you don't have to give out your strategy or give out like a whole lot of things. Just talk about something that can help them. They are and as I mentioned, that talk about how your subject matter expertise can help their company in establishing their brand, or establishing their product, whatever that thing is. That, like, be that specific, and then you can and you can, like, you don't have to give any kind of external links. Okay, that is a number one no no. Okay, I'll come to that. You have to give them some suggestions, like if you're a writer, give them some blog suggestions. If they have not been updating their blog, for example, give them some blog suggestions. Give them some, if you're a strategist, you can check at what stage their company is in. You have to check how well they're performing everywhere. And you can give out some subtle details about how you can help them. Okay, and you can tell them about yourself, that I am this, and I have helped I have helped these many people. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to give any kind of external links. The reason why I mention this always, that you don't have to give an external link or an attachment to download. This is because they don't know who you are. The number one challenge is the trust factor, and people in US and other countries, they keep themselves braced and protected, and they may suspect a possible malware or a hacking attempt. Okay, so this is a very important aspect. If you are a person who would receive something, and you will definitely feel, okay, oh my god, this must be some kind of attempt to take away all my money, maybe some banking details, they're asking for some details. Okay, so definitely we have this problem, and if we have, there are definitely people in US who are one step ahead of us, and they definitely have this problem. Never send any kind of external links to show them your website, or your blogs and all of those things. You don't have to do that as yet, because there is a way to show your LinkedIn and Calendly link and all of that. I'll come to that. Okay, after that, you would want them to check out your blogs. So what you have to do is, you have to create a signature stamp in the end. Okay, that will include your website link, your LinkedIn profile, your Calendly link, and your email ID, contact name, everything. Okay, so there is a tool called Wise Stamp, which I use. That's a signature stamp, and your email will look so professional, because you have to keep that mindset of a business owner. Okay, you are a freelancer. Ideally, I mean, if you ask me, a freelancer is a freelancer, but a freelancing business is a freelancing businessman is a person who outsources their work to some other person, and who spends less time in the actual work or the executional work. But when you are interacting, when you are contacting an international client, you have to come across as a business. Even if you are not a businessman, you have to harbor that kind of businessman mindset, that you are doing a business, and this is what your cold email should look: very, very professional. And you have to add a hint of personalization. Definitely, you cannot sound like a robot. Okay, so that is why they call it personalization, is because of all the factors, all the points that I have mentioned. And your clients are very busy people, like you'll need to follow up once a week, twice. So what I do is, if I don't get a reply back, I follow up with them the next week, after 6 days or 7 days. And then the next follow up, if in case again I don't get something in return, I again follow up with them, and do this twice. And I usually contact the third time through LinkedIn messages, because this is to remind them about the a missed email. Okay, how will I know that uh, my clients have read my mail or not? So I use quite a lot of tools, like a tracking mail tool called MailTrack. Okay, that is when I get to know how my client thinks about me. So it always helps me to find out if the client is genuinely interested in going forward with my services, or especially after a follow up. Because if you're following up and this person is has read your email, must have forwarded your emails a hundred times, and must have not opened it, just not opened it, you will get to know if the person is interested or not interested. So that is the best thing, and it's totally fine if they know that you're using these kind of tools, because it will show up in the email. Okay, unless you upgrade this tool, it will keep showing up, but that's fine, that's not a problem. We all use tools these days, so that's fine. So you need to use these kind of tools, and then you talking about yourself and not about them. So that is something which you shouldn't do. You should talk about your work, but not about so if you don't talk about your industry knowledge, they wouldn't know. So talk about those things. uh, how you end a cold email. Okay, when after you talk about all of the things which is very specific, and all the good parts and the parts that are challenging to the company, and where you can help them and things like that, after that you can talk to them about a test email. Okay, a paid test email, where you can tell them that I see that you require some kind of work, that is some work is required for your business. Okay, for example, so this is not exactly, these are not the wordings that I use, but I always make sure that I give them something they can look forward to. Always do that whenever you are ending a call, whenever you are ending a call with a friend, also when you are uh, ending a cold email, always give them something to look forward to. Okay, when you do that, they get some ray of hope that yes, this person will be helpful to me. This person, yeah, I want this. Like, there is something you need to give. Maybe, maybe a freebie plus a paid test email. Okay, it works both sides, and it's a win-win for both of them, for you and your client both. So give them a paid test email and tell them that if you would like to go ahead with this, I would definitely love to help you and your company. But I can maybe we can you know do a test email. Okay, the most important part is how you sound in your email, because your entire email speaks a lot about the kind of person you will be. Okay, I know we have been very we have not been really serious about the fact that relationships matter. Okay, they don't matter when it comes to uh, the professional side, but it does matter, because somewhere in your subconscious you will definitely come to know what kind of person this is. That is the reason we have people who are specialized in email sequences, who write emails to click that balance, to strike that balance. Okay, you have to see to it that you don't sound very desperate, you don't sound very desperate, you don't sound very pushy, and you don't sound very as if you are some kind of uh, you have to sound like an expert, but you have to keep that tone a bit modest. Okay, so see to it, because these are some subtle things which are definitely going to uh, speak volumes. So people are very smart, they get to know, they want to know what kind of person what you can offer them. Okay, and just keep it friendly plus a bit professional, so that you can crack that deal. Okay, and one very important part, don't be. I don't want to miss this part. I know this has got nothing to do with the components of a cold email, but just I would just like to inform this before I forget. Don't try to don't try to contact too many businesses, too many companies at one go. You will lose the motivation. Contact, be very specific. Contact people who you think must have never been contacted. How you will get to know this is because you can get to know this from their website. You'll get to know this from their social media page. Okay. There was a French company that contacted me because they wanted me to check out their product because I was a SaaS writer. Okay, and I checked it out and I got to know that they really need help. Okay, they had just come up with a product and they really needed help with things like that. That is the client, that those kind of people are the people who you have to target. You can change the game by telling them how you can help them. Okay, so these are some very important pointers which I feel a cold uh, email should have. Again, coming to the follow-up email. Okay, I hope I'm not taking too much time. It's 8 o'clock, Harshita. I hope that's fine.
Yeah, we can go ahead like just 5 to 10 minutes more. We can extend that.
Okay, okay. Thanks for letting me know this. Or I would have just
And we
gone
have many
like,
more questions also. So I guess
oh my
you need
god.
to take them
Yeah,
now on LinkedIn,
yeah. On
or
LinkedIn.
or we need or we need to
Okay.
do another session.
Oh my God. It all depends on if there are people who are interested in,
Yeah, we
getting this information.
you can first complete about yourself. Then we can
Yeah.
decide upon that.
Okay. So I have actually basically covered everything that a cold email needs to be covered. The components actually, and the essence of a cold email. I hope like people have got the point, like how it differs from a normal cold email, because these are the things that I experimented, tried and tested, failed, and even I became my first client that I worked with was an outbound lead actually. It wasn't an inbound, and I've worked very less with inbound leads. Like it's just been outbound, and this is because I did exactly these things. And why I have mentioned in my LinkedIn post that get more with less is because you get more because the currency rate definitely differs from the Indian currency, and what you get in return by just working for one or two clients in a week. Okay, if you just work on two three blogs in a week where you have international clients, you will get more. You will definitely get more in less. You don't have to waste time on calls with inbound leads, or like discussing and then waiting for your turn to be selected and all of those things. Like you are the boss, and you can contact people. Like I used to contact 5 to 6 people. Like I would send these many emails, but uh, I was very specific in my choice. Okay, I would contact people who are totally never heard of, and these are the companies, these are the international clients which you have to look out for. Check out their website. That's the best place to find people. Angel List. Someone has asked about Angel List. So Angel List is a place where companies invest in, like people invest in these companies, but this is a place where you can apply for jobs. Okay, I got a job offer from from someone in Shopify, but I didn't go for it because it was a job. So I wanted to do freelance. So you can get your a whole list of companies, uh, India, or like internationally, also domestically, or everywhere around the world. Like you'll get a list of companies. Just pick one of them. You'll have the most of the time goes in researching actually. So research about them, but you will get your list over there. So Angel List is a place where you will get the companies you would like to contact, and you can list your uh, profile and talk about yourself, and you can reach out to them from Angel List. That's a great platform. Yeah.
Okay. So, do we have any specific question that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah,
Maybe
you can
just
get
check
freelance
once.
gigs. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
There is a
Harshita, you can come up with the questions that they have asked. I'll answer.
Yeah, there is a one question that's quite basic, but that was my question too. That how to
Mhm.
actually ensure that your email is getting into the inbox and not in the promotional or spam folder.
Right. The thing is that I have been using my official email ID, which is mail@swetakamble.com.
Okay.
And this, for some reason, it ends up in a spam folder. Okay, there could be some settings that you would need to do in your Gmail and uh, in the mail, the official mailbox, that you are registered with. Like, I'm registered with Roundcube. Okay, so probably there is a problem over there. And when it goes to the promotions part, when it goes to the promotions section, it means that you are using some words which are very salesy, okay, very businessy, salesy. That is the reason why they always say that you have to personalize your email, okay. You cannot use jargons or words like sale or cheap, discount, you know, those kind of things. So the best way to you can check online. There is a whole list of those words which are prohibited in the cold emailing aspect from that point of view.
Okay, great. One last question that I have for you is about the
Yeah.
niche. That if we don't like
Yeah.
working for a particular niche, how do we can
Mhm.
like do a transition or change from one niche to another, and what things that should we consider before doing that?
Yeah, sure. What happened was, when I was working in the B2C side, I have already given you know this example, that when I was working in the B2C space, my creativity levels were quite high, and I would definitely come up with. So there is there is like writer's block. There are a lot of things that writers go through. Okay, so I had started feeling that, but then that made me transition from B2C to B2B. But when I went, and that was not the reason actually. The reason was when I was working as a full time employee, and I just chose a software company, okay, to work for, and they wanted me, so I worked for them, and it was a B2B space. So what happened was, I uh, actually my way of thinking had to change, because, as I told, you have to have the niche mindset. Okay, so my way of thinking changed, my way of writing changed, and I started talking the B2B way. Okay, so that is the reason why, uh, when you transition, okay, now if I want to transition to something like a marketing specialist from a content writer, okay, because I don't enjoy content writing, for example. You tend to get totally saturated with your work, with content writing, and you start outsourcing. Well, this was my plan sometime back. Okay, so I still haven't tried that, but when I transitioned to something like a strategist, for example, from a writer. Okay, you have to keep on upskilling and keep on leveling up, and uh, you have to, you know, what I did was, I started posting things on LinkedIn. I started changing my website very subtly. Okay, you have to blend your previous experience, what you want to leave, to with something that you want to pursue. Okay, something like writing and marketing. Okay, so that you get both, best of both the worlds. Okay, maybe a client wants writing work from you plus marketing work. So marketing is something you want to pursue, and writing is something you can outsource. Okay, you can get immense advantage through that. Okay, another thing is, when how you suppose, if you are a SaaS writer and you miss the B2C space and you want to become a health writer. Okay, so what you can do is, you can start working for a health tech company. When you work for a health tech company, they get to know a lot of blogs in the health tech space. They have some blogs which are not even related to the technology that they use, or related to the SaaS product they use for in the health space. So healthcare space. So what happens is, you can start working on those kind of blogs. Slowly you can transition your the way you portray yourself on social media everywhere. On social media you have to do that, because it's not going to be your website, just your website. It has to be social media. It has to be all over your blogging section if you have a website of your own. When you have to pursue clients, okay, when you have to contact international clients, they would definitely ask you, like, why did you change your niche? Okay, why did you go from SaaS to something like healthcare? Okay, so you can always mention to them that, you know, I wanted to niche down quite a lot. Like, I wanted to niche down a bit more, and then I found my interest in the health sector domain. But then, what you will have to do is, if you are looking to, write for the health sector, healthcare sector, you will need to speak to healthcare experts. I mean, who need your services, and the best part is that you can tell them that, I have worked in the SaaS space, and I can help you. I can help you to probably automate, help you to probably talk about automation in the healthcare sector, health tech space. So that is how, when you give them something extra, that is when they would be able to take your service. That is how you slowly transition to a next level, to a different level, okay, or to another niche. And I think that is the best way to do, because this is how I, like, you won't believe, I've worked for, like, jewelry. I've worked for jewelry brands. I've worked for healthcare, uh, beauty, fashion, and whatnot. I mean, I've just kept on transitioning. But then at one point I realized I had to stick to a niche, and after sticking to a niche I again wanted to transition. But and I did that. Okay, that there is a way to do, but you should be very sure, if you are going to do that, stick to it, and always do things which interest you. Because when you get up in the morning, it shouldn't sound like a headache to you. Like, it shouldn't be a headache to you that, oh my god, I have to sit in front of the PC and start working now. It should come from your heart. And for me, honestly, what motivates me is money. Money is the driving factor, and that is exactly the reason why I target international clients. And because I don't have to work too much to get that amount. Because you, and definitely, if you are not respected in your own country, I mean, if you're not respected by the people who are contacting you, okay, you have to go international. You have to show your talent there. You will definitely be selected. I'm sure about that. But you have to do it very strategically. And if you're transitioning, you they totally understand this part. I have seen that thing happening even in my full time job, where I I worked as a resume writer, and then when I wanted to work in the content writing domain, I was asked these questions, and it's not easy to answer. But you have to crack it up, and you have to come up with reasons, valid reasons, to give them something in return. When you give them something in return, that is when you get that particular offer. So that is my personal experience, and I have benefited quite a lot with this.
Okay, thank you so much for that detailed answer. One last question for the day.
Yeah.
How to find a company that need freelancers, and what is the best method to do so?
Uh, the best way. So if you are contacting clients, you are contacting clients instead of them contacting you. Okay. And how to know if a company needs freelancers? Okay, I'll tell you what. If a company is hiring, you have to go on LinkedIn and check if they're hiring anyone. Okay, if they are still looking for people. Okay, well, it's my experience that when I have tried to contact companies who have come up with job postings, uh, they want, the reason why they come up with job postings, and they've not mentioned freelance content writer, for example. Freelance, the word freelance, they've not come up with the word freelance, because they are looking for a full-time employee, and they're not looking for a freelance. It's like, It's to be understood, you know. So in that case, you that company, I mean, that company is a no-no for me. And even if they try with a freelancer, they would want a lesser rate. Okay, they are very well aware that freelancers charge very high. So in that case, you have to go for a company which is looking for a freelancer, and or who hasn't posted anything on LinkedIn yet. You have to contact such companies. If they are just posting about, if they are just putting out posts about some random posts or something that's not related to a job posting, you can definitely know that this company is quite active, and this company needs may need a freelancer, because they may need someone who is a LinkedIn brand strategist. Okay, they would, so you can get your freelancing gig there. Okay, so there are many ways. These are some, I won't say red flags, but these are some signs that you will get to know instantly if this particular company is looking out for a freelancer or not. Okay, if they're looking out for a freelancer, definitely they'll post it and you can apply for it. Okay, but then again, you'll have competition. So Angel List is the place I see where a lot of freelancers refer to this. You just want to try working with some company, and you have researched about the company, research about your company, pick one company and work with them. Do a Google search based on the location, because your niche is based on your location. Like for example, a SaaS company or a B2B companies, and all of these companies, they mostly have their hub in somewhere in Bangalore, for example, Bangalore, Pune. You know, so these are the places. Not Mumbai, because Mumbai is like all about the media industry. Okay, and it's not known for, as an IT hub. So Bangalore is the best place. So try searching for the industry niche and the location, and check it on Google, and you'll find relevant industries. What you can do is you can check the second page of Google, and you will get more industries there, uh, because see, just like you, if you are playing the outbound game, there are many other people who are also doing the same, and they will always check the first page of Google. So check the second, third, fourth page, and you will get these, and you will definitely get them in job portals too, because job portals are the place where they have requirement for freelancers. So you can just put up, type in the word freelancer, and you can get your first gig there. And yeah, I mean, start with the domestic, in the domestic side, or else you can start direct. You can, after that, if you already experienced enough, you can target the international side.
Great. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Shweta, for this session and for all the answers you give.
you're
And
most welcome,
I
Harshita.
hope I hope most of the questions are covered. But just in case if we have left with any, I would request you to please
Yeah,
put up your LinkedIn ID here so that people interested
yeah.
can connect with you and they can ask their questions personally to you.
Definitely, Harshita. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I would also like to inform everyone that very soon I'm going to come up with a course for cold emailing, and I'll be explaining and giving a lot of insights and information in detail, so that it will be easier. Also, templates and all of those things in a very strategic way, actually, because you need to form a base and a mindset and a niche to stick on to it and be successful by just doing less and achieving more. So I think, yeah, that is the way. I just put up my LinkedIn ID here. Just give me one moment.
Sure, and also I'm sharing a community WhatsApp community link that we have, and it would be great if you can put your feedback here, like everyone uh, who are there till the end. I would love to get their feedback on the session. Although I enjoyed the session a lot. Thank you so much, Shweta, for the session and for detailed answer
You're
and everything.
you're most welcome, and I would request everyone out here, if you found some value out of this session, I would really appreciate if you would put it up on LinkedIn or something and tag me out there,
Right.
and give your feedback, and or else give your what just mention what is the best point you liked about the session. It could be the niche related stuff or something about the cold emailing thing, something that the components about cold emailing or something that gave an aha moment to you. So yeah, that's the thing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much everyone for being here.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying till the last. Hope this session was valuable to you. And again, a big thanks to you, Shweta, for taking out time and giving us the session. Uh,
You're
yeah,
most welcome, Harshita.
I hope you enjoyed it too.
I really enjoyed, and I was totally immersed in. I just went with the flow and I was totally immersed in talking, and I didn't realize the time. I'm so sorry for taking up so much time, but I hope it was worth the time that you guys gave in.
Definitely. And with this, let's end this session and wishing you a great weekend ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great weekend ahead to you too, guys. Thank you so much.